that odious stench? Smells like...
Hey, you're watching Hymns of My Wake. I'm Jacob. Today we are, as you've probably seen in the title, gonna go over my second part of my 2020 end of year roundup, best of, whatever you want to call it. Getting started and playing in the background. This isn't a 2020 release, but they did release an album here in 2020. But it was only released digitally so far, so I don't have a physical copy of it. But the band, I don't remember the name of the album that they released this year, but this was their first release. The band is Winterlore. This is Four Swords Against the Pious. This is still their best material to date, but the new one is really good. Atmospheric, pagan, black metal. It's probably the best way to describe it. These guys are out of Salt Lake City. Yeah. Paid, I don't know if I can get the glare off of that, but paid $6.66 for this at the local store a year or two ago, but which was a killer deal because you try to find this on Discogs and it goes for I think over $30, $40, so it was a killer find. But anyways, let's get right into it with this. Don't want to go for 45 minutes like we did last time on this. Let's start off with the EPs from this year. First up, we've got, take it out, show. I'm gonna have to change my lighting and come back. Yeah, the logo is pretty blurred to begin with, but this is Left Cross, Prophecy of Conquest. Put out through Stygian Black Hand. Made by members of, I should have written the band names down because I can't remember them now. I'm unfamiliar with the bands that these members are parts of, but I know they're pretty big bands on the Stygian Black Hand label. This was honestly the only thing I've gotten from that label. I'm not even sure how I came across this, but yeah, it's Left Cross, Prophecy of Conquest. This is some just pummeling death metal. As a lot of my viewers probably know, I'm not a big death metal guy, so for me to sit here and tell you exactly like what kind of death metal this sounds like, it's just not my element. But I thought this was just a killer death metal release, pretty pummeling. Another death metal release. Ken over at the Death Metal Crypt turned me onto this one in one of his videos. This is Ancient Crypts, Inhaling the Fumes of a Burning Carcass. Just another, fantastic death metal album or EP out of Brazil, I believe. Put out through Burning Coffin Records. There's actually a 10-inch version of this available in the States right now for like $15, I think is what I saw. I'll link that up in the description in case anybody's interested in checking this out, maybe picking up a copy. But again, killer death metal. Yeah. one more cassette. This is a double EP put out on Folkvanger Records. The project is called Entropy Created Consciousness, and the release is called Antica Memoria di Dis, and then there's two separate. It's a double EP, and let's see if I can remember what the separate sides or separate EPs are called. One's Archeron and the other is Lathe. Entropy Created Consciousness is a kind of an experimental black metal band. To me, they remind me a bit, but it's more in like the feeling of the music than the sound. It reminds me a bit of Achilles. Just the overall, just like kind of nightmarish sounds that are atmosphere that Achilles creates. I feel like this album really captures that as well, while being a little more experimental. Production value isn't quite on that level of Achilles. It's still, I think the production on this works perfectly. I love the drumming on this. Kind of has a almost industrial feel at times. But yeah, just this is probably my these would be my second favorite EPs of the year. Each one has there's a bit of a shift in the sound. I think the second one gets a little more maybe a little more melodic than the first one. The first one's a little more kind of chaotic and dissonant than the second. But yeah, fantastic stuff. My second best EP of the year. You'll have to wait till next video to find out my number one EP. Three more. We got Stormkeep, Galdrum. Just fantastic, kind of medieval feeling black metal out of Colorado. I think there's a member of Blood Incantation in the group, if I remember correctly. Then we've got An Absence of Presence by A Moon. It's a really, really interesting release. 3 songs written by different members each song. So it's not the most cohesive in sound, but as far as the theme goes, there's a lot more cohesion there. I'm not going to dig into it. Seems like a very deeply personal album for the band members, and that's where they kind of get the cohesion of the album that way. Yeah, it's experimental black metal, a lot of kind of post elements. There's a little bit, don't let it scare you away, because there's only maybe like 4 or 5 times that it happens. They're all long songs, 10, and 20 minutes for the track lengths about. So there's only a couple little tiny sections where it kind of uses these electronics that almost go into like a glitchy sound. Some places I thought they worked, and others were a little more iffy, but overall, really good stuff. Really excited to see what comes next from these guys. the drummer of this project is CJ, who you might have seen on some of the streams or over on his own YouTube channel. I'll link that in the description. Go check him out. Very passionate guy, very knowledgeable on the stuff he talks about. Yeah, really good channel. Go check it out if you haven't. But he mentioned that they've already, I think he mentioned they've already got their first full length written and ready to go. It was actually, I think, written before this, and he says it's a pretty different sound. Probably gonna have a bit of more of a cohesive feel to it, where they probably all kind of wrote it together as opposed to this. But yeah. And then the last EP we got is Soul Dissolution, Winter Contemplations. Big Soul Dissolution fan. Post-black, a little bit of atmospheric in there. Kind of reminds me of if you mixed Numenorian's Adore sound with Stars Wept to the Sea era Unrequited. It's kind of sits between those two sounds as far as, you know, the post black metal goes. At least most of their stuff kind of sits there. This one, well, let me restate that. Scratch that. Their stuff all sits there, while some of it gets a little more atmospheric. Yeah, as you can kind of guess, Winter Contemplations kind of builds into that more cold winter atmospheres. So those are the EPs. Got a bad case of the dry mouth tonight. So hopefully we can make it through this. Next up, we are going to talk about a label that killed it this year. Every single release they put out was phenomenal, and talking about Bindrune Recordings. So yeah, let's just jump in. I should have taken these out of their sleeves beforehand, but Panopticon split with Nachachwin. Fantastic stuff. One of my favorite Panopticon tracks, Rune's Heart, or Rooney's Heart, I believe is how it's pronounced. Fantastic song. That's his side. And then Nachachwin, on their side, they just do, you know, classic Nachachwin sound. Fantastic stuff. Just rock solid split there between them. I'm not going to show vinyl colors on most of these. You've probably all seen most of these before. Then the second Panopticon split of the year, the split Austin did with Aerial Ruin. Yeah, just a couple covers here by Panopticon, and then another one of the maybe top 10 Panopticon songs, The Pit. That thing will hit you like a freaking sack of bricks. That's a emotional crusher of a song. But yeah, and Aerial Ruin, just like the Nachachwin classic Aerial Ruin stuff. I love, I can't think of his name, but I love his sound, his vocals. He's got such a unique sound on his vocal approach, I guess. And then one more Panopticon release. We got the Live Migration live album. I'll leave it in the sleeve. You've all seen it. This is probably one of the first 2 or 3 Panopticon albums that I would reach for off the shelf now. Just the fucking sound that they capture here is, you know, how Panopticon's meant to be heard in that live setting, that woodsy live setting. Yeah, you wouldn't. The production on this is fucking fantastic. The sound they get on this, stellar for, you know, a live performance. Yeah. Then we've got Volume 3 by Obsidian Tongue. These guys are, how do I put it? You know, Bindrune has a sound. These guys fit into that sound, but that atmospheric sound. But they also have a bit of like a progressive feel at times. They get a little bit into of a doomy feel at times, and also kind of touch into post-black at times. Really, kind of a diverse sound throughout the record, while, you know, having a certain consistency to it. I like their previous album a little bit better. A Nest at the Throat of Ravens, I think is the name of it. It has Nest and Throat and Ravens in it, in some sort of order. I like that one a little bit better, but still a really good release by Obsidian Tongue. And then we've got Eve, Phantoms Made Permanent. Another, you know, Bindrune album. It's got that, you know, atmospheric vibe. This one is a bit darker than a lot of the, you know, the other Bindrune bands. You know, your Panopticons, your Nachachwins, your Falls of Oroses, what have you. These guys really capture a darker element in their atmosphere. Yeah. And then another one that I've heard a lot of people really speak highly of this one, and I'm right there with them. Canis Dearest, Independence to the Beast. Probably my second favorite release this year on Bindrune. Close between this one and the Panopticon Live Migration, but what to say about this one? Really kind of interesting take on everything. They hit on the, you know, the atmospheric sound, black metal, very stays in the black metal, while also getting pretty doomy there in the first half. And then my favorite thing about this is on the second half is they kind of go into some heavy metal riffing and chugging, and I really enjoyed that part of it. That kind of wasn't quite like a black and roll take, but it was a really, really fun couple of tracks there at the end. Then my favorite Bindrune is release is the least Bindrune sounding of them all. You know, the glorious dead into lifeless shrines. As you all know by now, Marty Worm or Marty Ritkonen, the main guy behind the Bindrune label, is one of the guitarists in this band. Probably the only reason it was put out on the label. But yeah, again, another death metal album. Seems to really go into their old school influences. They're all a bunch of old dudes, so you know, just kind of worshiping or playing at the altar of, you know, the sounds they grew up with, but without sounding, you know, unoriginal, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert on that, but that's my take on it. My only complaint on this one is it's a little long-winded for me as far as, you know, death metal goes. I like it short and sweet and to the point. You know, and anything over about, you know, 40 minutes starts to lose my attention as far as death metal goes. So that's my only criticism on that one. I'll show the vinyl on this one. It was pretty gorgeous in case anybody hadn't seen it yet. Yeah, super cool. Matches that album cover like perfectly. Okay. Get another drink here. Try not to drink too much, though. We don't need another Ale Storm rant. Next up, we're going to hit on more of releases with a more mainstream appeal as far as metal goes. Extreme metal goes, even. Some of these not so extreme, but on that kind of borderline gray area. Yeah. First up, Canadian modern progressive power metal act, Unleash the Archers with Abyss. You kind of got to say it. This is a it's basically a companion album. You can't have this album without having the previous album, Apex. This is just, you know, the second half of the story that Apex told. You know, it's not as. I didn't like it as far as the music. You know, the story was still great, but musically, it didn't quite reach the level that Apex did. Fantastic album nonetheless. I recommend this one to, you know, power metal fans of, you know, any era. You know, this isn't overly like new school sounding, not overly like clean sounding, if that makes any sense. Yeah, there's the band right there. Amazing vocals on this. Brittany just kills it as always with her, you know, vocal delivery. Yeah. Next up, Verminous by the Black Dahlia Murder. If you know Black Dahlia Murder, then I'm sure you know what you're getting here. Just classic Black Dahlia sound. They do go with a little more kind of heavy metal thrash influenced riffing on this one a little bit, but not enough to completely change their sound. And it still very much sounds like the Black Dahlia Murder that kind of at the gates influenced modern death metal, melodic death metal sound. Slightly melodic. I don't know if I said that. Slightly melodic death metal. It's not like Gothenburg melodic, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about there. Next up, we got Sojourner, Premonitions. Early on, these guys were labeled as, summoning worship. I think they're breaking out of that kind of label, taking it in a more cleaned up direction, a lot more polished, almost. There's still some of that black metal, epic black metal sound there, but it's going in a more kind of just epic metal sound. Even some like mellow death influence on this. Still really good. Probably would be my second favorite Sojourner release out of the three. The second album is my favorite out of the three, but this one's pretty close. They even have a bit of an epic ballad on here in song 4, Talus. Real cool. Yeah. If you're into bands like Summoning, bands like mine's going blank. Anyways, can't think of their name, but yeah, check out Sojourner if that sounds like your cup of tea. Next up, we got, I believe this was a double album, Heaven Shall Burn of Truth and Sacrifice. Yeah, this would have maybe cracked the top tier of these albums if they had made it a single album. Not that there's a bad song on here necessarily. Each song individually ranges from good to fucking fantastic. But a double album of this it's just too much for me. I can't digest it in one listening. I can't get through the whole thing. I start to lose interest halfway through and change it to something else. But individually to the songs, like I said, ranges from good to great. Those of you unfamiliar with Heaven Shall Burn, these guys formed in, I think, the late 90s, early 2000s. German band. They're kind of part of that sound that came around from, At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul. Bands like Caliban was another German band. Then over here in the States, like Shadows Fall, that kind of stuff. These guys have a little bit more the metalcore, the hardcore influence, metalcore. Overall, out of all those bands, hands down my favorite group. everything these guys have put out is really good. You know, I sounded kind of down on this, but you know, you listen to half of it in one sitting, it's fucking fantastic. Come back a couple days later, listen to the second half, it's fucking fantastic. Yeah, some of the highlights on here: Eradicate, Protector, My Heart in the Ocean, Expatriate, Children of a Lesser God, Stateless, Weakness Leaving My Heart. All fucking, those are probably the top tier of the tracks on this one. Yeah. Also, that album art is fucking glorious. I love that. I love that artwork. Probably would be in my top 5, you know, album art of the year. Next up, we got the third full-length album from Aether Realm, Redneck Vikings from Hell. Talked about these guys a little bit on the channel. Check out that pie. You know you want a slice. Yeah, I've talked about these guys before. I believe they're from North Carolina, but they sound like they're from Finland. Really playing that kind of Winter Sun style of melodic death metal, or even like folk metal. This one sees him kind of go in a more mainstream direction from the past. Even kind of a more lighthearted direction with some of these songs. I mean, how the name of the album is Redneck Vikings from Hell, and you know the first song, the title track, has freaking kind of it's got banjo, and it's got the, you know, the trucker on the radio sound, whatever, right there. But one of my favorite songs of the year, Slave to the Riff, is on this. That song freaking rips. Yeah, I know. I think Jake, the singer, stated that with this one they were kind of going for more of songs that they can, you know, incorporate into their live act to kind of get a more of a crowd involvement into it, and simpler songs so they can really put on a better live performance, a more interactive live performance, I guess. But yeah, it's still a fantastic album. It's not on the level of Tarot. That's, you know, their masterpiece. They're gonna probably spend the rest of their careers trying to top that album, but you know, it's not a bad album here. Redneck Vikings from Helm. Rednecks bite. Let's try this again. Redneck Vikings from Hell by Aether Realm. Okay. What do you guys think? 3 more? Should we wrap it? We should probably wrap it here. 35 minutes. Cut 10 minutes off the last one. Yeah. Well, no, let's just run through these real quick. Then we got some American atmospheric black metal. Ovnev, Transpiration out of Texas. Really interesting kind of concept album based around oxygen. I'm just going to run through these real quick. At least these first 2. We got Twilight Fauna, Foundations, best work Twilight Fauna has done to date. Kind of that Appalachian atmospheric black metal, a lot of that bluegrass Americana influence on it. My one complaint is that they Paul kind of goes too much in that with that bluegrass sound. But I like a little more black metal on this one, but you know, still his best album to date. And then lastly, we got from Montana, we have Archeron Thodal with Rituals of the Sovereign Heart. Yeah, this one was real close to making the top tier. You know, other days I may have put it there, but yeah, if you haven't checked this one out, you know, probably out of everything I've shown today, this is the one to check out. You know, maybe that's just because being here in Utah, you know, in the Rocky Mountains, I can kind of feel this one a little more. You know, these guys are from Montana, you know, Rocky Mountains as well. You know, I find that in the atmospheric, you know, black metal, you can get almost a regional feeling in the sound. You know, like you get your Cascadian Northwest, Pacific Northwest sound. You know, you have your, you know, Appalachian sounds, your European different regional sounds. You know, your Eastern Europeans, Ukrainians, Russians, even your, you know, Scandinavians. They all have a bit of a different, you know, regional sound to their atmospheric black metal. And I feel like this one really captures, you know, in a way I haven't heard another band capture. It captures, you know, the feeling of the Rocky Mountains. You know, just the fucking vastness that we have here. Just the sheer size that, you know, compared to like the Appalachians, they pale in comparison to, you know, the Rockies. And I feel like that sound is really captured here by Archeron Thodal. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Got one more end of year video planned. Hopefully we'll have that one up soon. And then we'll see where we go from there. Maybe the metal tag, maybe another collection update, maybe another episode of the Folk Finger series. We'll see. But anyways, until next time, y'all take care of yourselves, and we'll see ya.